Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. I'm Ellen, and this is a conversation between Michał and I. We are both practitioners of clean language working with remote agile teams. We met a few weeks ago, but we've never seen each other in person. He's in Poland and I'm in France. Well, thanks for coming to have this little conversation together.
It's my pleasure.
Cool, so we're going to do a little exercise today. We're going to have a conversation not using clean language, and then we're going to have a conversation using only the three basic questions of clean language. So how was it for you the first time that you learned about clean language, or first time you experienced clean language?
Yeah, the first time I learned about clean language was relatively recently, which was last autumn. I attended a conference in Poland. It was a conference about IT and about Agile. And one of the participants at that conference was Judy Rees. And the organizer of the conference, which is a friend who is a friend of mine, he recommended that I talk to Judy because of her experience in remote work and specifically remote training. And at that time, which was pre-COVID, but we were still interested in remote stuff. So I just talked to Judy about remote during a break in the conference. And in the meantime, she mentioned that, oh yeah, what are you doing at the conference? Oh yeah, she's doing a talk about this thing called clean language. So I attended the talk, and that was my first formal introduction to clean language. And I used to study also nonviolent communication, which has some, say, resonance with clean language. So I think I was kind of primed to receive it, but I liked it very much. For the best reason why I was interested in it was that it also creates a kind of empathetic kind of mindset, but of like curiosity and withholding assumptions and trying to explore what is really there, which is similar to NVC, I would say. But also it was much more, it had tactical elements where you could ask those neutral questions. And so when you try to do NVC, it's like people can see that you are like using some kind of formula and using concepts that not everyone is like super familiar, super comfortable with. And clean language has this advantage that it does have this conceptual background, but the tactics, the questions themselves are universal. So you don't have to explain the question, what kind of, for example, or is that's like what?
Yeah.
So that was the advantage of clean language for me.
Okay, so that's the advantage. And there's, what did you like about it the most? I mean, you listed those different advantages. What did you like about it the most?
Yeah, so I liked the minimalism of it. So that I always like the things that are powerful but simple. So for example, like, a hammer is a simple tool, but it is optimized to do a job that would be impossible to do otherwise. Or a screwdriver, yeah, just a piece of metal, but shaped in a way and compared to the technology of screws and everything else, it makes it very useful for various tasks. But the construction of it is simple, and that's how I see at least the basic clean language questions, is that they are like uncomplicated in construction, but extremely powerful when used in the right context.
Okay, so yeah, so used in the wrong context. Okay, what kind? I can't even like stop myself from using clean questions now. What kind of context do you use it in?
Yeah, so that's I use it for various things. So maybe I can tell you the first time that I like really used it other than just practicing. Because after learning about the concept of clean language at this conference, I also attended some training with Judy, and I read her book, and I read Caitlin's book, From Contempt to Curiosity, and I took an online course. So I studied quite a lot in last autumn, and Then the first real opportunity to use it came when I joined a new company. I was hired as an agile coach to help a team work better with their clients. Actually, I was hired by the client to help improve their relationship with the team and the productivity of the whole project. At that time, so first I visited the client, and I spent some time, like 2 weeks, just with the client, talking about various things and digging into various issues there, but without contacting the team yet. And then when the situation was right, I went to Budapest to meet the international travel pre-COVID. I went to Budapest to meet the team, and then I had a full day with various people at that company, and I decided to adopt like a really clean approach. And so there were two advantages. One was that even if they, like my previous habit would be that I ask some questions and then they say something, and then I might from time to time comment like, oh yeah, you know, in Agile it should be like this, or you know, typically we would do something X, Y, or Z. I would like interject my comments, even if it was an interview and focusing on the interview, I would interject sometimes. But now I had this really clean mindset that no, I'm here to really understand your perspective, and even if they ask me, because of course they are interested, like a new person is showing up, they want to kind of, you know, understand what they are about, what they can expect. But I was really careful to really withhold my own assumptions, my own opinions, and also information like the perspective of this client. But rather, no, we will get to that, and I will help you however I can. But first, let's understand your perspective. I want to learn as much as you can. So the first part was just this mindset of withholding my own assumptions and trying to explore in a clean way. And then the second part was the clean questions, which of course, like during the whole day, I also used some other types of questions, but there were many opportunities where I just used the simple questions. And then I it took all day. I took 12 pages of notes, and it was really useful for to really get a clear picture of what the situation is before I kind of give any recommendations or suggest some solutions, or before we discuss any changes in any way.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was my, and it was really successful because I did learn some details that I feel like probably would not have come out without clean. But also the big effect was the kind of attitude, how the team perceived me. So I was not just some, you know-it-all guy who comes in and like tries to change them immediately, but without regard for their perspective, but I feel like it really built up a lot of trust with them. So
Okay, so you built up a lot of trust. Okay, thanks. Okay, so that concludes the first section of the experiment. So the second part of the conversation, I'm only going to ask you three clean questions. So Michał, for your first experience with clean, what was that like?
So my first real experience talking about this Budapest interview day, it was like I was a mirror, and I was just there in the office, but only the images there were only what was really there, not things that I have brought with me.
And mirror, what kind of mirror is that mirror?
It was like a human height standing mirror, like for dressing, where you can see the whole person. And it had like a golden rim.
Golden rim.
Yeah.
And human height.
Yeah.
And is there anything else about that?
And Yeah, the mirror. So I kind of, position the mirror in the middle of the room, and then, or in a conference room, and then throughout the whole day, people would come to this mirror and look at it and let's say display themselves in the mirror, and yeah, so we could see what was there.
Okay, thank you. Until we can see what was there. Thank you. So after those two experiments, those two different conversations, what is the first thing that you know about clean language?
The first thing
that you know?
The first thing that I know about clean language.
Mm-hmm.
First thing that I know. It's that it's an exploration tool.
It's an exploration tool.
Yeah,
and what is the second thing that you know about clean language?
The second thing I know about clean language is that it is simple in construction.
Okay.
At least the basics are.
Yeah. And what is the third thing that you know about clean language?
The third thing I know about clean language is that it is useful.
Okay, thank you.
And practical.
Okay, thank you. Is that okay with you? We stop there?
Yep.
Okay, wow, you got this halo going there. Wow.
Yeah, I noticed, but it's pretty cool, so I left it.
It's nice. It's like when the truth just came out into three simple things.
Clean language. Yeah,
yeah, the three simple things. That was interesting. I mean, for me, what I observed was that the first conversation, you just went on blah, blah, blah. It was interesting to hear about the experience, but then there was just so much of it. It was a little bit hard to focus on what's the most important. And then the second part, where we only use the clean language, when we asked about the metaphor, you already simplified that experience for us into a symbol that's easily more communicated. And then, and finally, we explored that symbol, the mirror, a little bit more. Then we find out that it's about human contact and showing what's important. So then the last step, you just came up with the three different things that were important to you, most important about clean language. Can you repeat those again? The last three things.
Yeah, but I was not familiar with this question. It's like, what's the first thing I know? What's the second thing I know? So I came up with some things that are things that I know about clean language, but are those the three most important things or most valuable things? They are three things, but I'm not sure they kind of cover the whole experience, let's say.
Okay. But I think it's interesting to condense that into three. What I did was the download. It's normally 6. So you do the whole thing, then you go, and what is the first thing after all this exploration that you know about, and then you do 6 times. Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah, cool. All right. So you want to switch roles?
Sure. Okay, then. So now I would like to learn a bit about your experience. Talking about clean language, how did you first get introduced to clean language, and how was that like for you?
Yeah, I was looking for coaching classes and coaching certificates, and I looked at all the different schools and the curriculum. And one of them, it says clean language, and I was a little bit shocked because I didn't know what it was. Usually I've at least heard about NLP or AT, transactional analysis, and all of that stuff. So I was very curious and intrigued by clean language. And then I looked on the internet about it. I read one book, and then I saw Caitlin Walker's video. So then I found out that Jennifer DeGant is like the person to contact or the reference in France. And this was also before COVID. So she was doing practice sessions at her house. So I showed up to one of them. And there she asked some questions. We were supposed to talk about different resources we had, kind of a symbol for resource. So we do this in coaching, like before you go into the problems, you bring some resources. So we were talking about resources, and I couldn't find one. All the other participants came up with their tree or their, I don't know, their sun or this or not, or the sky. I didn't have one. And I only had like a nightmare. We had a nightmare because I was having these dreams about floods of waves coming in the house, and I tried to board up the house to prevent the water from coming in. So when Jennifer said, yeah, no problem, let's work with that, this is super interesting. And then the rest of the 20 minutes, I don't remember exactly what happened, but I just remembering her asking the questions, and then somehow at some point I ended up like staring at a corner of her house, and then somehow it just hit me that actually this storm or this water coming in and me trying to stop the water coming in nightmare, it's actually a source of resource finally. For me, I found that the ocean became my resource symbol, and that this whole water thing, that actually I do not need to try to stop it from coming in the house. I just needed to understand it and to welcome it. So that actually began the whole journey I had with clean language. I think maybe 2 years ago now. Yeah. So that experience was pretty eye-opening, because I was like super confused coming out of that meeting. I was like, what? I mean, it took a long time afterwards to realize what had really happened. And I think what happened was that I went into my own metaphoric landscape and find the power and the meaning that I was not ready to receive up to that point. So yeah, so that was that.
So you went to that session, and then you discovered that the ocean, you don't have to hold the water out, and that the ocean can be your resource.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
When the ocean became your resource, what happened then?
Oh, that was the start of a journey then, because well, I mean, it sounds simple like that, but it was a journey. It was the start of a journey that I started to be curious about the ocean, about what it means personally for me. And then I explored further. So yeah, first there was the whole ocean, and then afterwards it was hard to contain, et cetera, et cetera. Then I had to find ways to welcome that huge resource inside of me.
Cool.
Yeah, so now I feel pretty comfortable with it. I mean, I'm still on the journey, so it's not finished yet. But yeah.
And after you got introduced to clean language, and you went on this journey, and you studied with Jennifer and from other sources, what were some situations where you were there any situations that kind of come to mind that you found clean language most useful, that it really made a difference?
Yeah, what's most useful for me, and I continue to do so with my clients as well, is to help them become curious about themselves, to learn more about themselves, and to really find the difference, first find the difference between the different parts of themselves, and then afterwards try to integrate them together in a more balanced self. So I guess examples in personal coaching, I guess people who are super analytical and they're aware of this intuitive side, but they don't know how to get there. They don't know how to get in contact with this. So basically, they would like to explore and to play more. And that's basically what I offer to my individual clients. Yeah, and I guess, yeah, for the For teams, I also use clean language. I also do clean language workshops. That really to help them communicate better through different cultural situations and different remote settings. Because when we're separated, we usually focus too much on the task and focus too much on the projects that we don't make the connection between human, so that the clean explorations help people realize that they're us, but they're also people who are different, who think differently, who act differently, and that's a real discovery, and that's a real richness, a whole not country, a whole globe out there of people of different metaphors to discover. So I think clean language really help people to become curious of that and to welcome each other in like a really creative, inclusive way.
Yeah, I appreciate this context as well. However, I'm slightly different in that for me, I think part of the power of clean language is that yes, it works in this way that you described, but also for those analytical people, because you know there are some analytical people such as myself that have for one reason or another developed this curiosity about let's say the human side,
Yeah.
But not everyone is it's not necessary for everyone, and it doesn't happen for everyone, and it's
Sure.
fine that it doesn't.
Yeah, then that's
So
fine.
what I like about clean language is that you can explore things without this, let's say, humanistic mindset. And then when you use it with analytical people, it's like you can have let's say hard arguments like okay, you're a super rationalist, do you think that knowing what really is, like exploring reality without distortion, is that something valuable? Yeah, and then that's useful.
Yeah, I think for me the definition of metaphor or symbols goes beyond just allegories. Even words, even concepts are metaphors. So even when we talk to quote unquote analytical people, we could still explore the analytical side with this curiosity that's
exactly
included in clean language.
Yeah, that's right. But without them having to buy into some kind of philosophy.
Exactly.
It's just easy, pure questions.
Yeah, they don't need to change to you. They just come as they are, and then we explore together. Cool. Thanks
a lot.
Okay, so what do we do next?
So maybe let's stop recording right now.
Okay.